first story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling some of my siblings it would be too awkward if I invited them to my wedding? Not a typical one. I have 2 biological brothers, and I have 3 half-adoptive siblings and 1 stepsister. My dad married my adoptive mom when I was a year old, and my brothers were a little older. My dad also adopted 3 of my step-siblings, the 3 half-adoptive siblings. I only use specifics, so it makes sense. Anyway, when I was 9, my dad and mom died in a car accident, leaving all of us without parents. My stepsister took her biological siblings in, and our grandparents helped her, but they left me and my brothers go into foster care and did not keep in touch with us. They also did not let us keep in touch with our siblings. When I turned 18, I, along with my brothers, reached out to our other siblings, only to be told it would be too weird and awkward to reconnect after everything. It hurt, I'm not going to lie. I spent so many years excited to see them again, and they rejected us. Last year, my brothers reconnected with them, but I didn't. They didn't show that much enthusiasm then either. But when I announced my engagement, they got more interested and have tried since. But they have also asked me straight up about inviting them. My reply was, it would be too weird and awkward to have them there after everything. They did not like my reply. They said I'm being really unfair to them and we're still family. Yeah, but I want to know they give a care, not that they want a fun day out, because they only seem to be invested now after the wedding announcement. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. This is all very sad. I'm sorry this is your backstory. I'm glad things seem to be looking up. You've done well to make it through this kind of an ideal childhood. Understatement, with your sense of self and of right and wrong intact. Very obvious not the a-hole. Congratulations on your wedding. Thanks. It sucks. It does. I knew their older sister didn't exactly think much of me and my brothers, but I was hoping my other siblings would still care more. Like, I get it must have been weird for them, and who knows what their sister and extended family said, but we spent 8 years as family. They were all older than me and we had been close. Knowing they didn't even want to gradually build back up for so many years sucks. And we lost the people who connected us all. I miss them so much. And we lost the people who connected us all. I miss them so much. I'm not sure who you are referring to with the above. If it is your parents, all I can say is, I'm sorry. So sorry. If it is people who are still alive, please understand that choice and the option to rekindle a relationship is apparently there for you to make and take, if you want it. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty about not wanting a relationship though. Do what works for you. I meant my parents, our parents. They were the ones who made us a family. The extended family and my stepsister did not. They never considered me and my brothers the same, which I do get. It's just, I know that apparently the plans had been for them to take us all. I think my adoptive grandparents. So I will always wonder if things had just changed, or they just agreed to agreements could be made, and they could get their real grandkids without any issue. But then stepsister wanted her siblings, and it worked for them. Not an a-hole. It's weird and awkward that they'd even ask you. Yeah, you start with something low stakes like brunch and build from there. Not a wedding. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not going along with being adopted to make everyone happy? I hate to post here because I know there are so many of these, but I really need to hear what you all think. I, 16 female, lost my mom when I was 7. My sister was 2 at the time and my brother was a few months old. Our dad met my stepmom about a year later and started dating her 6 months after they met. It was a thing for single parents. She had 2 kids who were close in age to my siblings. After they got married, things were fine at first, and then they wanted to adopt each other's kids. Her kids were excited, as were my siblings, but I did not want to be adopted. This wasn't made into a huge deal, but they really quizzed me on why, and tried to figure out if they could change my mind. They weren't able to, and I know this really hurts her feelings. Over the years, it was let go. They adopted the other kids and everyone was happy, or so I thought. It seems like it made them unhappy I said no to the adoption, and my siblings have wondered why I didn't want to be adopted too. I love my stepmom. I get along with her really well. I think she's great, but I don't love her the same as I love my mom or dad. It's different with her. Not bad, just not as close. That for me was reason enough to not be adopted. But there's also the fact I don't want my mom's name erased from everything. I know they're not trying to replace her, but if I'm adopted, her name is no longer the legal name I put down. It doesn't change biology, but it does make my stepmom my mom. And no matter how much I care about her, I just don't want her to be my mom in all official senses of the word. It has come up again because they offered the adoption again and my answer was the same. My dad decided we needed to go to therapy, the three of us, and the therapist told them they couldn't therapy me into agreeing. My stepmom said it's not about that for her. She just wants to know what she did wrong and why I'm opposed. My dad said he feels like I'm holding back, and he said there is an unhappiness with the fact I have kept myself on the outside by not becoming a more official part of the family unit. It bothers me, but part of me feels bad that this is something that makes them so unhappy. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. The therapist told them they couldn't therapy me into agreeing. That therapist is awesome. Not the a-hole. This whole thing seems to be going in the right direction. Dad and stepmom are upset and they are seeking help. The therapist sounds like someone that might make them realize that they need to make peace with the situation. Hopefully they listen to the therapist. Both dad and stepmom seem to think that the normal response is an enthusiastic yes to adoption. Hence, stepmoms, I just want to know what I did wrong, since no is only possible because something went wrong. But Opie's reasons are so utterly reasonable and understandable. Their inability to hear her on this just seems like deliberate disregard of Opie's needs and boundaries. If you've explained your reasoning to them the way you have here, and they still refuse to hear you, then they're being a-holes. Yes, they think they're doing the right thing and they're doing it out of love, but it's misguided as hell. They're a-holes because they can't seem to understand that being part of their family doesn't have to mean cutting your mom and her legacy out of your life. Not an a-hole. Not an a-hole. No one can dictate what your feelings are. Good for the therapist for saying that. I can see where the stepmom is coming from with her "what have I done wrong" thing, but she doesn't have to have done anything wrong. You can't really help how you feel. I can see where the stepmom is coming from with her "what have I done wrong" thing, but she doesn't have to have done anything wrong. You can't really help how you feel. Same, but Opie, it's not your job beyond a certain point to make her feel better. I think you can say what you have said above in therapy, that you love her, but you don't want to lose this connection to your mom. It's not about being outside the rest of the family. It's about keeping another very important connection. The people we loved live inside us forever through these connections. Opie, sorry about your mom, honey. It's the worst. You're not the a-hole. Not the a-hole? Tell your stepmom she's not doing anything wrong except putting pressure on you to be adopted. You just don't want to erase your mother from your legal history and family. And ask your dad why you need to replace and erase your biological mother, whom he too presumably loved once, to be fully part of the family. Step-parents and step-siblings are family too. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my brother the truth about his dad and why I wasn't around? My ex-stepdad and I, 25 male, have a complicated relationship. I'm not his biological son, but my mom got pregnant when they were married. No, she didn't cheat. But due to a rule on this sub, I can't go into detail about my conception. I'll just say he hated me because I was a reminder of a horrible time, even though my mom loved me wholeheartedly. After my brother, 19 male, Steve, was born, he made it more obvious how much he didn't love me and treated Steve so much better. My mom had fights with him all the time over how he treated me, and they divorced when I was 8. They split custody of Steve and I stayed with my mom. I was really close to my brother as we grew up and we loved spending time together. Our mom passed away when I was 20 and Steve was 14. He stayed with his dad full-time after that, and when I started trying to come over for visits, his dad told me to get lost. He refused to let me see Steve. And just because my mom facilitated a relationship between us doesn't mean he's going to. Knowing the truth now about how everything happened, I understood why he hated me so much and didn't want me around, but it still hurts not seeing my brother anymore. I came by a few more times and tried to message Steve on Twitter and Instagram, but his dad blocked me in those. I gave up in the end and let it be. Steve is 19 now, and he contacted me for the first time in years. It was awesome to finally see him again, even if it was weird to, since it felt like we were strangers. We've been talking a while, and the other day he came to my place. During our conversation, he talked about how he was mad at me for years for ditching him after mom died, and that's why it took him a while till he was ready to reach out to me. I got so mad that he told my brother that I was the one who didn't want to be around when that's all I tried to do. So I told Steve the truth. The fact that I wanted to be around him and tried visiting. Why his dad was always a jerk to me, and how that's mainly the reason why he didn't want me around anymore after Mom passed. This was a major shock to my brother and he left. Steve didn't text me for days, till he told me it's because he left his dad's house and is living with a friend now. My grandparents, his parents, they accepted me as their family, have called to tell me off for revealing this to Steve when it wasn't going to do him any good. They're saying I've now ruined his relationship with his dad, and I should be ashamed for dragging up the past again instead of moving on. His dad is very pissed off with me, and so are they. That I should have let it be and continued rebuilding my relationship with Steve since he was obviously not mad at me anymore over the lie his dad told him. I don't know, it feels crazy getting crap for being honest, but in this case they say it wasn't necessary when it's caused a lot of problems with Steve and his dad, since now he doesn't want to talk to him. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Isn't reasonable that they expect you to play along with their lies, which painted you as the bad, neglectful brother. His dad brought this on himself. Exactly. OP didn't ruin the stepfather relationship. He revealed the truth about the relationship and exposed the lie. The stepdad is mad not because he was ashamed of what he had done, but the truth was told. Seems complicated, and I may be missing info, but overall I have to say not the a-hole. They were all lying to him. Why should you continue to lie? What good would that do? Nah, they're a-holes. It's very complicated, yeah. They only think I should have kept up with the lie because he'd already moved on from it and wasn't mad at me anymore. What about the real problem here, which is the fact that your father held an innocent responsible for something he had absolutely no say in? If you were born in unfortunate circumstances, well, damn, that's too bad. But hating you and keeping you from your brother was a total crap move. Your brother deserved to know the truth. Lying to him, like all the rest of them are, is not the answer. Now, reconciliation is right where it needs to be. It has been long. In your father's hands. Not the a-hole. Very glad for your reconciliation with your brother. Right? His mom was able to love him despite the circumstances of his conception, and the fact the stepdad couldn't even be kind to him for her sake is just wow. I don't want to assume here, but for some men, when something like that happens to their partners, feel emasculated somehow, like it's an offense on their manhood / property rather than being concerned and upset for the victim. To me, it kinda sounds like that could have been going on here. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for saying I won't apologize because I'm not sorry? I don't want to make this long. My parents are divorced. Dad is remarried. He and his wife started dating 9 years ago, married 6 years ago. I'm 16, my brother is 14. I have a stepsister who is 15 and another who is 11. We started family therapy at my dad's request because we're not blended and he wanted to try and fix that. This incident came up. When I was 12, my mom agreed to let my friends and I go to this really cool water park for my birthday. She told me I could invite whoever and also offered me the choice to not bring my brother, but I wanted him there too. So it was the two of us and my 5 closest friends. Apparently, my 15-year-old stepsister had wanted to go and heard about it through school, and she also heard me tell my friends I didn't have a limit on who I could invite, so she waited expecting me to invite her. But I didn't, and it hurt her feelings. She brought it up in therapy as the reason she stopped caring about getting along with me and my brother. My dad was pissed, said at the time he talked to my mom and she said it wasn't her job to include his family. He said this in therapy. The therapist asked if I would be willing to apologize. I said no. My dad's wife asked me why, and I said because I'm not sorry. That it was my birthday and there should never have been an expectation that I would invite either of the girls because we weren't friends or close in terms of family. I said it sucked that her feelings got hurt, but she also shouldn't have snooped on me in school. She claimed she didn't, but then could bring up other conversations I had with my friends that were not loud enough for everyone to hear. And then it came out she used to try to hear what I would say about her. My dad thinks I'm wrong to not apologize for doing something that hurt her when inclusion is not a bad thing. I don't think so, but I'm open to hearing what others think. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. It was your birthday, and you didn't want to invite someone you are not close to and who snooped on private conversations. can't say blame you for not liking stepsis. What's the saying? You never hear anything good about yourself when you eavesdrop? Not at a-hole. You handled this situation well. I hope the therapist stepped in to support you. Not at a-hole and this. I hope the therapist didn't let your dad harp on you in the session. That wouldn't be a very responsible therapist, especially considering you were 12 at the time of the event. Not at a-hole. Forced apologies are just words and don't mean anything. They have failed as parents if they don't understand and didn't teach their kids that sometimes they get to do things that other kids can't, and sometimes they can't do what other kids do. If she had a party somewhere with all of her friends, I highly doubt she would have given you an invite to hang out with them. A 12-year-old boy doesn't want his 15-year-old stepsister at a water park with his friends and peers, and that goes for her too, if the roles were reversed. And you don't need to feel bad about that. 3 years isn't a lot, but at that age, it is. And you weren't close to her, so it's completely reasonable that you didn't invite her given the option. Your stepsister needs to understand that she can't always get what she wants, and snooping on you isn't going to help your relationship any. She's 15 now, was 11 when the birthday party happened. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.
Update. Am I the a-hole for refusing to speak to my friend and end our 15+ year-long friendship after she took my purse, used my money and lost it? Original post. So, I 21 female am just about to leave from a vacation with a friend, also 21 female, and I'm honestly still sick over what happened. A few days ago, she took my expensive Zadig and Voltaire purse without asking. This purse was a Christmas gift from my sister and has huge sentimental value. I've spent the past few years taking really good care of it because it means so much to me. When she took it, she didn't even tell me. I only found out after the fact that she used it to go to the laundromat and in the process used my money, which she also didn't ask to take. For context, the purse had around $40 in cash and a bunch of quarters, a gift from my sister's best friend's mom, 60 euros in notes, and at least 20 euros in coins. So we're talking over 100 euros total, not to mention the purse itself. And now, the purse is gone. She lost it. I was obviously upset, not yelling or blaming her, just crying and saying I wasn't mad, just hurt. I told her how much that purse meant to me and how hard I've worked to keep it safe for years. Instead of apologizing, she got huffy with me, rolled her eyes and said, "How much does it cost? I'll just replace it," in this angry, dismissive tone. She has a very defensive and confrontational nature that makes me feel bullied and small, so I find it hard to stand up to her. But it's not just about the money. It's about trust, respect, and losing something deeply personal to me. Since then, she hasn't apologized at all. In fact, she's acting annoyed that I'm upset. Now we're on the last night of our trip, and I've decided to just be neutral and quiet for the journey home. But once we're back, I plan to stop speaking to her entirely. I feel like she violated my boundaries, disrespected my belongings, and is now making me feel like I'm too sensitive for being hurt. But some mutual friends are already making me feel like I'm being dramatic and should let it go because it's just a bag. So, am I the a-hole for cutting her off and refusing to speak to her after this? Now for the top comments before reading the update. She's not a friend. She also needs to pay you back for the purse. She stole it, actually, so she's a thief. Your choice on how to handle that going forward, not the a-hole. She agrees to reimburse me, which I accepted, but I haven't spoken with her further about it, as I've been too upset to look up the cost of the purse. And I also haven't told her the amount that was in the purse. I plan to do so in 2 days' time, where I will post the update after I discuss with her my true feelings about this. Have you checked her bags? She might have your purse tucked away in her belongings. Make her reimburse you, then end the relationship with a thief. Not the a-hole, and I don't know why you say you weren't angry, just hurt. I'd be furious as well as hurt. She stole from you. She violated your trust. She's deflecting as if you're the one making a big deal about it, as if what she took was, say, a candy bar, and not an expensive bag costing hundreds of dollars or euros, as well as a bunch of cash. Why would you want to stay friends with someone who would do that? If she won't pay you back in cash for the money in the bag? I'd post this all over social media with her name attached as a warning to others, because I doubt a police report will get you anywhere at this point. I agree, but getting angry with a girl like her doesn't work. It only invigorates her, it seems. I am genuinely heartbroken, as this has huge sentimental value. But also, the amount of money in it may not be large to most, is a lot to a student nurse in college whose parents are not wealthy enough to support my college fees and living expenses like hers are. When I receive nice things, I aim to keep them for a long time. She just lost my belongings like it was nothing and never apologized. Now for the update. So I have an update. Thank you to everyone who gave advice or shared support. It really helped more than you know. On the flight home, she asked me to mind her passport in my bag, even though she had her own backpack. I agreed, just to keep the peace because I didn't want to deal with any attitude or fighting. When we landed, she turned to me and asked, "Do you have my passport?" in this snappy tone. I was still hurt and wanted to get one last jab in, so I said, using the exact words she said to me all week about my missing purse, "I was checking my bag the whole time to make sure your passport was there. But maybe it'll show up when we get off the plane." I regretted saying it immediately. She snapped in front of other passengers, finally acknowledging that I'd been upset about the purse, but in the most cruel and dismissive way. She said, "Well, at least I didn't throw a hissy fit bawling crying for hours over a purse." That was the last straw. She acknowledged my obvious upset, yet still would not apologize. Once we got our bags at the airport, I told her I wanted to check her suitcase for my purse. I said if she refused, I'd involve the police. She tried to say I was violating her privacy, which is hilarious considering she took my purse and went through my belongings. I told her if it wasn't there, she had nothing to be worried about. I also made it clear I wasn't going to touch any of her stuff, that I wasn't interested in taking others' belongings without permission, just checking for what was mine. She was absolutely fuming, face red, shaking, visibly furious. Then she shoved her bag at me and told me to go ahead. I opened a zipped compartment. Inside was a black trash bag. Inside that was a red Target bag. Inside that, drum roll, my purse. All of the money was still inside. The cash, the euro coins, but no quarters. I was honestly so shocked I couldn't even ask why she had it or what her plan was. I just said thanks and walked away with my stuff. I got on the bus home and haven't spoken to her since. I wish I hadn't been so emotionally drained to have given her a piece of my mind. She's since blocked me with no apology or explanation. As a side note, her mom, who doesn't know we're not speaking, called me at 3 a.m. crying. She was saying how badly she feels treated by her daughter and her husband, how she's constantly belittled. I won't get into any of what had just happened, but it definitely gave me more perspective. This girl is cruel and horrendous, with little to no empathy. And I think maybe a sociopath. Anyway, I got my purse back, but the whole thing left a really bad taste in my mouth. I still don't fully understand what she was trying to do, and honestly, I don't think I want to. I'm just relieved it's over. What do you guys think she was aiming to do with the purse? Very little of my money inside was used. So strange. Thanks again. Edit. I didn't realize this would gain such traction so quickly. Thank you to everybody. Also, she chronically watches the Smosh YouTube channel, where they review Reddit stories like "Am I the a-hole?" etc. I'm just laughing thinking about if this came up, I feel like she's so self-absorbed. She would not clock that it's about her. Why haven't you told your friends and her mom about what happened? It's like you want her to rewrite the story to make you the villain. My friends are aware, and my entire family. They told me they are disgraced by her behavior and to cut off contact with her. The friends on vacation, however, whether they sided with her or were actually too afraid to side with me, I'm not sure. I haven't reached out to them, and from advice from the previous post, I am not continuing my friendships with them. I can't be friends with someone who is too weak to stand up for me. Her mother was drunk driving and in a bad spot, so I felt it was not the right time to bring up the situation as she was very upset. This was weird. She took the bag but didn't use the money inside, except quarters. She didn't dump it either. I wonder if she has a collection of trophies that she has stolen? Her mom seems to be aware that her daughter has different behavior than most of the others. It sounds like other friends may be scared of her. So that's the mom and possibly friends that are unnerved by her. I can imagine that rage, the rage that she knows you'll find your purse and she won't get away with it. Good for you for sticking up for yourself. I would distance yourself away, far away from her. That friend is not a friend to cause you all this stress when you were on holiday, trying to enjoy yourself. I have not had any psychological training, just the University of Life. But she doesn't sound right to me. That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to wrap my head around it all. My family and friends are just as confused as to what her objective was. My dad just put it down too, in his very old country Irish father way, cuts are everywhere. Don't think about it anymore. Just don't give her the time of day ever again. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my ex-girlfriend's dog back after she abandoned it with me for a year? I, 29 male, broke up with my ex Chloe, 28 female, about 14 months ago. The breakup itself was messy, and when she moved out, she asked if I could look after her dog, a senior dachshund named Frank, for a couple of weeks, while she found a new pet-friendly place to live. I agreed without hesitation, because honestly, I loved that dog. He'd been around for years and was always a source of comfort. I didn't want him to suffer just because of our split. Those couple of weeks quickly turned into months. At first, Chloe would occasionally text me to ask how Frank was doing, but she never came to visit him or sent money for food, vet bills, or anything related to his care. After a few months, the texts slowed down. She stopped checking in as often, and her lack of involvement became pretty obvious. Around the 6-month mark, I finally texted her to ask directly, "Hey, are you planning to get Frank soon? His food and care are starting to get expensive." She took a day to respond and then replied with, "I'm still looking. Thanks so much for doing this." That was it. No timeline, no offer of help, nothing. By the 10th month, things came to a head. Frank had a serious vet visit that cost me over $300, which was a huge hit because I had just lost my job at the time. Chloe hadn't reached out in 4 months, and honestly, I didn't even bother texting her about the bill. I covered it myself, and at that point, I made the mental shift. Frank wasn't her dog anymore. He was mine. I was the one feeding him, walking him, paying for him, and loving him every single day. Fast forward to last week, and Chloe suddenly shows up at my door out of nowhere. She looked completely different. New clothes, new attitude, and apparently a whole new life. She told me she had a new job, a new apartment, and even a new boyfriend. Then she casually said, "I'm here for Frank. Thanks for watching him." As if this had just been a short favor and not 14 months of responsibility. I flat out told her no. I said she abandoned him. I had been his sole caretaker for over a year, and I paid for everything out of my own pocket. I reminded her that she hadn't even contacted me for months. Chloe immediately got hysterical, shouting that I was stealing her dog. She insisted Frank had been her emotional support animal during our relationship and claimed she needed him back. She even offered to pay me back for the vet bills in installments if I just handed him over. I told her to get lost and close the door. Since then, she's been blowing up my phone with messages, alternating between guilt trips and demands. To make things worse, her new boyfriend has started sending me threatening texts, saying I'll regret it if I don't give Frank back. Now my friends are split. Some say I saved Frank when Chloe abandoned him and that he's rightfully mine now. Others argue I'm just being a bitter ex, keeping him out of spite, and that technically he's her property, and I should have given her a chance to make things right. So, am I the a-hole here? Info. How long was the dog only hers? I mean, before you started living together? Before. I don't know how long before me, but enough that Frank was upset for days without seeing his ex-owner. I once texted her, "Frank is low on energy. Maybe he should see you." She never visited, even after agreeing. Not the a-hole. You have recent vet bills in your name, so legally the dog is yours. If he has a microchip, get it registered in your name ASAP. If Frank really was her emotional support dog, she never would have left him with you. What's crazy is how she never once complained about needing to see Frank for emotional support, but suddenly after 1 year she needs him as an emotional support dog. Frank is better off with OP. She's a horrible dog owner. You are not the a-hole. I actually did something similar with a relative who abandoned a dog with us and then asked to have her back a year and a half later. That is your dog now. Do not take her calls. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my roommate's boyfriend move in without lowering my rent? I am 27 and currently share a 2-bedroom apartment with my roommate Tara, who is 26. We've lived together for about a year, and up until now, things have worked out pretty smoothly. We split the rent and utilities evenly, 50-50, and we each have our own bedroom and share the common spaces. The arrangement has always felt fair and balanced. A few days ago, Tara brought up something that completely changed the dynamic. She told me that her boyfriend, Evan, 28, recently had his lease end and is looking for a place to stay. She said she wants him to move in with us temporarily until he finds something else. At first, I didn't see a problem with it. I figured it might be for a month or so, and if it helped him out, I was fine with the idea. But then Tara made it clear that she still expects the rent and utilities to remain split down the middle. Just me and her, 50-50, even after Evan moves in. That's where I had an issue. I told her that if there are going to be 3 adults living in the apartment, then the fair thing would be to divide the rent and bills 3 ways. Even if Evan is sharing her room and not technically taking up an additional bedroom, he will still be using the bathroom, the kitchen, the water, the internet, the electricity, and all the other shared resources. Another person living here means increased utility usage and extra wear and tear on the apartment. Tara pushed back immediately. She said it wouldn't be fair to split everything 3 ways because Evan would be sharing her room and not taking up any extra space. She acted like he would just magically blend in without affecting anything. I tried to explain calmly that this isn't about square footage. It's about usage. If he showers, flushes the toilet, cooks meals, runs the dishwasher, uses the Wi-Fi, and sits in the living room, then yes, he is contributing to the overall expenses whether he has his own bedroom or not. She got frustrated and accused me of being petty and selfish. According to her, I should be happy for her and supportive of her relationship instead of making it about money. I told her very clearly that I don't care if Evan moves in for a while, but if he does, the financial arrangement needs to change. Otherwise, I will start looking for another place to live because I refuse to subsidize their relationship. Now she's upset with me. She says I'm overreacting, creating unnecessary drama and making things harder than they need to be. From her perspective, I'm just being difficult. But from my perspective, I'm being fair and protecting myself financially. So now I'm stuck wondering, am I the a-hole for refusing to keep paying the same rent if her boyfriend moves in? Or am I right to draw this line? Not the a-hole. First, check your lease. You may not be allowed to have another roommate. If that's the case, tell your roommate that you will not allow the boyfriend to move in due to concerns of being evicted. If her boyfriend moves in, you should split bills 3 ways. No way does the boyfriend get to live there for free. Your roommate may have told him that he could give her half of what she pays and she would pocket the money. That's actually a really good point. I hadn't thought about checking the lease, but I'll do that before making any decisions. And yeah, I definitely agree the bills should be split 3 ways if he moves in. I also wouldn't be surprised if she worked out something with him on the side, so I'll make sure everything is clear and in writing. Not the a-hole. Say something to your landlord if you don't want to move out. Yeah, I'm planning to talk to my landlord about it. I just want to understand my options before making any decisions, but moving out would really be my last resort. Splitting the rent 3 ways is a reasonable ask. Make sure you ask the landlord if you're allowed to move a 3rd person in before anything. But it honestly sounds like your roomie and her boyfriend want to financially take advantage of you. Not the a-hole.